Yeah, I'm a little nervous on how much I have to say about Eraserhead, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
really do my best.
Honestly, yeah, same.
Because I
It's
was
a shorter
watching
movie
it.
than I remember.
Yeah, but yeah, hello and welcome to the Cinebums, the podcast about chilling, doing nothing, and watching. I was about to say your own movies, but just movies, not your own
Yeah,
movies. Maybe movies you own,
anyone's.
but also movies that everyone owns, such as on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Do you mean like Anchor, Amazon, Netflix, one of those?
Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, I hope we John and I hope you enjoyed our top 25 episodes and our worst of the year episodes because we just got off doing that and we were exhausted
Yeah.
afterwards for sure.
Too many 2022 movies. I was getting tired of it.
Yeah. And I myself have been doing things recently, such as like I've been watching continued things on 2022, not like the movies themselves, but like interviews and supplements, like things like that. Like for instance, last episode we were talking about The Whale, so I was listening to a Brendan Fraser interview on WTF, and of course, like we were saying, it's very serious and
Yeah.
a weird vibe. And I kind of think I will end up agreeing with Jake's probably opinion on the film whenever I end up getting to it, in ways where he said that a lot of the emotion is maybe a little disingenuous and has a lot of just scenes that are a little corny and played off as tragedy when they are even more comedic and stuff like that. It just tonally seems like it might be a little off. But anyways, on this interview with Brendan Fraser, like Mark Maron, who is actually an emotional guy at times, he just starts bawling in the middle of the interview. You know what I mean? And I could tell the editor, like you hear Mark just start to weep after he's like, I'm just thinking about it. He's like thinking about the whale, right? He's like, I can't stop thinking about it. And then like he starts weeping, and then his editor just cuts it right there, and then they're back in another conversation. That's the vibe of this interview. It was really heavy, yeah, because it's Brendan Fraser and the whale, and he's just bringing around this heavy kind of vibe.
Yeah, I don't know if he was that like subdued because of the movie itself. Maybe you mentioned that, or if that's just kind of how he is now.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really know how he was publicly before this, back when he was like a huge star. But yeah, it was so toned down and quiet and
yeah, the way he talks, he talks kind of like this when I'm talking about the whale.
It was a very important movie. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's like
he sounds like he's coming from
an
emotional, like he's come down from a tremendous emotional high or something like that, and he's just worn out or something. Yeah, that's one of the things I watched. I watched another thing that was cool. It was like Hollywood Reporter roundtable of all like the screenwriters. So to name a few that were there, like Jordan Peele was there, Martin McDonagh, Ryan Johnson, Tony Kushner. Tony Kushner, yes, the co-writer of the Fabelmans. He's Spielberg's kind of now longtime co-writer. Like they wrote West Side Story together. They wrote Lincoln together, which apparently I heard Lincoln's script, apparently the first draft of Lincoln was like 500 to 600 pages, I heard the other day, which is pretty crazy to think about, because Spielberg was talking about how he would have done it in an episodic type of form, because it could have been that long. Daniel Kwan of Everything Everywhere All at Once. So it's a good group. It was a good group. A lot of interesting things were said, and everyone's just kind of complimenting each other's work and shit. And Daniel Kwan is kind of funny and interesting, especially with his like background, and especially with writing the film he did. You could tell he just has a lot of anxiety. which I was like, all right, nice,
Relatable guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of existential anxiety, which makes sense if you write everything everywhere all at once. And at the end of the thing, everyone goes around and they talk about like who's their favorite living screenwriter. And I'm as someone who's biased, I really appreciate this answer. Pretty much almost everyone said Paul Thomas Anderson. And I was like, fantastic. Yeah,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
everyone, like Martin McDonough, then like, Daniel Kwan, then Jordan Peele, all were like Paul Thomas Anderson.
That's so funny. Wow. Nice. Yeah, I always like watching those. I haven't seen any from this year, but I always like watching those roundtable
Yeah,
discussions from Hollywood
yeah.
Reporter. Those are cool.
The movie for today is Eraserhead, which is kind of a big turn from what we've been doing recently, and it's just one of those times where John and I decided to be random and pull one that we haven't talked about, pull something that's different and unique. This is definitely Eraserhead is definitely different and unique, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'd actually been I had finally started to over a year ago. I started Twin Peaks: The Return, and I got partway through, and then was moving, and then totally like fell off my plate, and then I've just now been getting back into it, starting from the beginning, and
Oh yeah,
so yeah, I've been in
got to
like a
get the
Lynch
flow of
mood.
it, you know.
Yeah, I didn't remember
Yeah.
hardly anything that happened when I first started watching over a year
It's
ago.
one
So
of
I had
those.
to.
It's one of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, ends up being a big haze of a time
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. And now that I'm rewatching some episodes that I've already seen, I don't remember any of it. So it feels like I'm watching it for the
Right.
first time again still.
Right.
But yeah, I've been
Yeah.
in like a Lynch mood, so
Okay.
I'm glad we're doing
Cool.
this.
Didn't know if I never remembered whether you had seen The Return, whether you had finished The Return or started it. So now I'm up to date. I'm up
Yep.
to date on what's going on there.
Yeah, that is the official update on The Return for me. I think I'm on like episode 6 or 7 at this
Oh,
point.
wow. So
Yeah.
that means you're about to get somewhere probably. I
Yeah.
don't know the episode chronology exactly, but I think like you're probably going to be getting somewhere crazy soon if you haven't already.
It's definitely getting scarier. I'll say that. Yeah. I'm turning more lights on in the house when I watch. Yeah.
Man, yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm excited for you. It's yeah, obviously it's so good. So like
Mhm.
one of the most interesting things I've ever watched for
Yeah,
sure.
right. Yeah. So I mean that's maybe a good segue into what we've been watching lately too.
Yeah.
Lately.
All right. Okay, I'll go from the beginning. I watched Cabaret by Bob Fosse starring Liza Minnelli. It's a musical about it was made in 1971. It's about the Kit Kat Club. I don't know why that was so hard to say it just now. I wasn't ready for it, because I didn't know what it was called, so I'm reading it. The Kit Kat Club of 1931 Berlin. Yeah, and it's just this really really unique stylized musical. Not one, and it's not really a musical as much that like where they break out in a song in the middle of scenes. It's more like there's a lot of scenes of story with Liza Minnelli's character and people in the club, and then there's a lot of like kind of more like interpretive performances and songs like in the middle that are being performed at the club, and that are supposed to kind of represent the characters and what's going on a little bit. And might I say that the music in Cabaret is fantastic. It's definitely something you could just listen to after you watch it for the next week. And the numbers are very unique, very weird, and very funny as well. This whole movie is very weird, but it's like definitely a masterpiece. And it's like also a little dark, being that it's Bob Fosse. Bob Fosse, one in the '70s, and like Liza Minnelli's like character in this is just very like interesting and enduring about how her the way of her not being as big of a star as she really is. She's just kind of this girl at this club, and I mean, it goes a little deeper than that, but that's the basic conflict in the movie. And yeah, I mean, also Liza Minnelli just shines. She has like some, I mean, you've probably heard the song where she's like sings a cabaret, like it's like really famous. She's like, you know, letting it out like the way she does.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just it's just a good one, and I've wanted to get to it for a while, and yeah, it's a must see. I'm glad I did.
Another thing I have to admit that I'm late on is I only recently saw All That Jazz
Okay.
within the past year. Yeah, but I definitely made me want to see more Bob Fosse. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, that's his
check out Cabaret.
autobiographical one, and
Hmm.
so like that's a good one. I mean, that's what I started with. I've only This is the second Fosse, I think. I'm not like that ahead of you. So, but yeah, All That Jazz is really great, and it's just about him.
Yeah,
So that's like a great introduction to this guy.
cool.
Yeah, that's Cabaret.
All right. Yeah. Well, I will. I'll start it off with a documentary that I watched. I've been wanting to watch for a while, and I pretty much resubscribed to the Criterion Channel just to watch it. And it's called American Movie.
Is that by Vim Vendors? No, that's the
No,
American Fiend. Oh,
yeah,
that's
the
the
American
I
Friend.
know what the
Or
never mind. I mixed them up. I know what this is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
American
So
movies that indie from the 2000s or
yeah, the
2010s.
the guy who directed it's the same one who did the Robert Downey Sr. movie from last year. He did the Jim and
Oh.
Andy documentary.
Oh, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, so he's done some other like filmmaking and show business, I guess, type documentaries. But this one was super interesting to me because it's you and me both have a lot of Midwest connections, and me
Yeah.
specifically Wisconsin connections, and this is
Mhm.
about this young filmmaker, and this is in the 90s in small
Yeah.
town Wisconsin, and his buddy and friends and family that are along with him, and
Yeah.
it's just an amazing fly on the wall documentary about this goofy independent filmmaker just trying his damnedest to make the movie that he feels so strongly about. And
Yeah.
it's a really like inspiring and funny movie, um or documentary. But the thing that's so funny about it is his there's so many members of his family who have just like, I don't know, just the most annoying opinions about him, where as a viewer you're like, fuck that, fuck them, like keep doing what you're doing, man, like keep going for it. Like
Right.
it'll show his
Right.
brother and he's like, yeah, have you figured at one point he'd just like give it up, but he still does it, he's still doing it. And then and you see him, he's just like so passionate about what he does that it's like, yeah, fuck that brother, just
Right.
keep
Right. Right.
doing it.
Right.
And he has this one friend, Mike Shank, who throughout, like everyone in this movie is just such a character. But his friend Mike, he puts a blindfold on and plays guitar, and he plays like all these metal riffs, and it's so great. And he's just like the perfect friend. Like he just is there to help out Mark, the director, any way he can. He's just there. He's like the most laid back, easygoing guy ever. You would not believe that this is like a real person, but there's just a lot of like subtly great scenes with this guy too. But anyway, I mean the whole thing is just about to show this like independent filmmaker really struggling to make this movie that is, it's not going to be some big Hollywood blockbuster. He's working with some local actors trying to get this done. People don't show up, people give
Mhm.
up on some projects, it's taking forever to get done. He's
Right.
asking his like dying uncle to borrow money, and but it's really sweet too. It's really
Mhm.
sweet how he interacts with his friend, with
It's kind of
with
like
Mike.
sad,
And
but it's also like enduring for
yeah,
him and stuff like that.
yeah, it's really, that's why it's so inspiring, is because he's like he's struggling so much on this project that probably, without this documentary never get seen by anyone. But yeah, how he really cares about his family, and his uncle who helps pay for his movie. He's not really all there. He doesn't really understand it. He needs a lot of explaining about everything, but he's so like gracious to him for doing that.
Hmm.
And his mom is really sweet too. His mom is like one of his only family members that is at least trying to help him. Like she's recording a scene for him, and yeah, is a really it's really like heartwarming and inspiring movie, just about just trying to create something, just
Hmm.
being maybe a young creative or artist trying to get something done. And and then you have you typical family responses where wondering why you're spending the time doing this, why you're not just going the safe route, getting a regular job
Hmm.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really loved American Movie. It's definitely going to be a regular watch for me, I'm sure. But
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah. Sounds like I would get something out of this and get a
yeah,
kick out of it as well. And yeah, I should check it out. It's always on some list of like, I don't know, some top movies list somewhere that you have to see. Like I always
yeah,
see it everywhere on all these lists. So it's been like a while since I haven't gotten to it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, you would get a lot out of it. It's if anyone's just interested in, it doesn't have to be filmmaking, just doing anything sort of creative and needing people to lean on and stuff. It's definitely a
Right.
really great documentary.
John, of course, is a big James Bond guy. Um, I had a random day last week where I watched Diamonds Are Forever, which is not one of the good Bonds,
Yeah, it's kind of a
unfortunately.
stinker.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm here to talk about it. Yeah, this Bond. The problem with Diamonds Are Forever is mainly the fact that there's not a lot going on, and he's mainly interacting with a lot of women who are bad actresses, and that's a lot of what mainly it. There's a couple action scenes sequences here and there. Other than that, it's a lot of like flirting with random women and games with all these women who are, like I said, bad actresses.
Hmm.
There's even a scene where Bond drowns two women who, of course, are trying to kill him, but
Yeah,
still
yeah.
in the middle of it, in
Not
the
just in
middle of
cold
this,
blood. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, in the middle of this movie though, already I was kind of thinking, I'm like, this movie's already like has all this like, he's having sex with like probably 3 to 4 women already, and now he's gonna kill these two, just drown him, like has one head in each hand, and he's just drowning them. I just thought that was a little much. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if how like the misogyny levels on Diamonds Are Forever is there's a it raises a little high on top of being the fact that it is kind of just mostly a little boring. So yeah, that's really mostly
Yeah.
what I have to say about Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah. This is such a forgettable Bond movie.
Right.
I don't know if I remember hardly anything about this. Yeah.
I know. I honestly, it was really hard. Just like I just watched it last week, it was very hard to remember things to bring up just now. So
Yeah.
I
That's what
understand.
so like I think it was during COVID, like the height of COVID, that I started to watch through all the James Bonds
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
chronologically. And yeah, I forgot how boring a lot of them can be and how not
Right.
good a lot of them
Hmm.
are.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how big of a franchise that James Bond is, when I would say
Right.
the vast majority of them, over 50% of them, are duds, really. Just
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was still just excited to like watch one, even though
yeah.
like
Hmm.
I referenced your list because I saw, all right, HBO Max has like they have some name for the collection, but they're like the Bond collection. It's not
Oh
even all
yeah,
the
I saw
Bonds,
that.
it's
Yeah.
just like some of the Bonds. But
Yeah, right.
I still went on there and I was like, okay, so I'll look at John's list for which ones I should watch. And all the ones that are in like the top 10, all the like really good ones I wanted to see, were not on there. They were all like
Of course.
at the best, like they were the mid Bonds. And so
uh,
I just went with this one out of, it was like just picking out of a hat practically. I didn't have much basis on it. I just wanted to watch a Bond pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did find that. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of crappy Bonds out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there really
Even though
is.
you'll get like excited when it begins, because it has this formulaic intro of a Bond. You're like, oh man, here we go. But then as it keeps going, there's a lot where you're just like, I'm just bored.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And yeah, that's what there's a lot of misogyny in Bond in general too, but then there are some like this one where it's just like so over they kind of make it's like a caricature of James Bond too, where it's like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah,
what is James
exactly.
Bond? Like he
Oh,
he bangs a lot
he'll
of chicks.
yeah, he'd meet this girl would be naked in the room,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
second he gets in, and she'll
yeah,
tease him at first, but of course they'll have sex with her, and then he'll need her for information later or something like
yeah,
that.
right, yeah, yeah. It's so goofy. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a bummer that there's not some other good ones. There are definitely some like not so good ones, or at least people don't think are that good that I really enjoy,
Mhm.
like The Spy Who Loved Me. I don't think people like hate that one or not or anything, but it's a
It's not
very like
known as a classic Bond by the masses
yeah, but
necessarily.
it's a very like campy, goofy one, and I don't know, it's exactly what you expect when you picture like a 60s or 70s James Bond movie that like Austin Powers is doing a spoof of.
Yeah, I mean, it's The Spy
Yeah,
Who Loved Me Bond number 2.
no, that's Roger Moore. It's
Oh, never mind. Never mind.
but they're definitely I
Okay,
think
so not at all where I
yeah.
was thinking.
The second one was Goldfinger, I think, which is also, you know, kind of one of those stereotypical like 60s or
Right.
70s,
Yeah.
spy
It's hard
thriller
when you
movies.
watch them out of order to be like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where they are because I was trying to remember what I had watched and what I was trying to like. I was like, I'm sure I haven't seen this one. I go to my letterbox. I'm like, oh yeah, I have seen this Connery one too. So
The
it's tough
names
when
are
you're
also
bouncing around.
weird too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to remember. All right. Next thing I'll bring up is a movie called Road Games, which is also on the Criterion channel. And yeah, Road Games is a movie directed by Richard Franklin, who also did the only other thing of note that he really did was Psycho 2, which is interesting because Road Games is a very Hitchcockian type of movie, kind of cat and mouse thriller about this semi truck driver he's basically on the hunt trying to find this. He's just a regular guy that stumbles upon this this these mysterious killings of this serial killer along the road. So he's sort of made it his goal to figure out who the find out the mystery of this whole thing and who's doing it. And
Yeah.
picks up some hitchhikers along the way. One of them is Jamie Lee Curtis, who she's
Oh,
yeah, this is like an Australian movie, but
but Jamie Lee Curtis is here.
yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis and the driver himself are both American, but it's in Australia and made by Australians, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, anyway, this is a really great movie that I enjoyed very much. It's
Okay.
yeah, that's all I got to say.
Sound
But
like you're trying to hold back a little bit how much you liked it, maybe.
yeah. All right, I loved it. It's my favorite movie ever. But yeah, Road Games is a really great cat and mouse thriller. Like I said, there's so much like Hitchcock in it too that that he's really inspired by it. That's why it's so interesting that the only other movie he's really done is Psycho 2. But yeah, this stars Jamie Lee Curtis, daughter
Right.
of the star of Psycho,
Yep.
Psycho 1. So yeah.
He's a little obsessed
Yeah, he
with
is maybe a
that.
little
Yeah.
too obsessed. Yeah. But yeah, really, really great, exciting movie. It's kind of under the radar. Like I hadn't heard like
Mm.
anything about this at all. But I'd seen it had some pretty good reviews, and yeah, it was on Criterion channel, so I checked it out on a whim. And yeah, and there's a lot of like crazy like dream like psychedelic sequences in it too, just with this driver. He's just become like overcome with just obsession of this killer, and finding out who it is, and it almost look at points seems like it's him who's the killer, but you just don't know it. Yeah, so it gets very intense and dreamlike at times. It's really cool.
Yeah, sounds good. I think I might have missed you probably said it straight up, but I think I missed when you were like, "Oh yeah, I got the Criterion channel again."
Oh yeah, so I mentioned that with American Movie because
yeah.
I just decided I would get it for like a month just to see what was on
Well,
there. And of course,
that's a
there's still a lot that's still on HBO Max too, which is the
right.
reason why I stopped my Criterion subscription in the first place, because HBO Max had so much.
Right. That's a
But
pretty
yeah,
big deal though for you to be back on Criterion after I don't know, who knows how long you were off. I mean, I've been
yeah,
off for over a year now. It feels like forever.
yeah, me too. Yeah, and my subscription just ended because I just did it for a month. But
Oh, so it was last month's subscription. It was your
yeah,
trial of it. Yeah.
but it was a good month. I got these
Yeah.
two in, at least.
You
I think,
always feel very powerful with Criterion. You're like, I have access to
yes,
everything.
to all of the film knowledge that I need.
Yeah.
The Oracle film.
Right. Yeah. Just looking at your Mac or whatever.
Yeah, literally just on my computer too. I
Yeah.
think I would be inclined to get the Criterion channel more too if it were on more
Yeah.
like platform. Like it's on
Yeah.
nothing else that I
It's
own
not
besides
on
my
a
computer.
Sony PlayStation.
Yeah.
But I believe it is on Xbox and
Mm.
Roku for some reason.
Yeah,
But for
it's
some
so
reason it's just
random.
not on PlayStation, so I've never been able to have it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we got a flex box, whatever the fuck that is, with our Xfinity internet, and still can't use it on that. So yeah, I'm just kind of stuck to using it on my MacBook.
Yeah, it feels weird. You're just like
Yeah,
hooking it up to the TV or whatever.
and it's
And
like
then
that.
it
There's a
doesn't work that well either. It like
no, the
always
player's not that great.
you don't load the movie sometimes. You have to like
Yeah,
refresh and it's not the website unfortunately does not run very well.
yeah,
Um
no, that too.
yeah, I mean I used to endorse Criterion Collection a lot more than I am now. I still will say like that, yeah, if you're looking for all of like old stuff, art house stuff, foreign films, like and deep cut stuff like from the past as well, like it is the best place to be for it. Um,
Yeah,
it's whether you feel like you're gonna be able to spend as much time on it to make it worth it, and sometimes I just haven't, like
yeah,
like one a month, not or even one movie a month, or even missing a month, like that's not enough to warrant it.
yeah. Right. Yeah, that's what I felt towards the end before I canceled it the first time. Was like felt guilty, like I had to. I'm spending money on this, so I just have to watch something on it.
Right, I know. So it
Um,
feels like a chore, you know what I mean?
yeah, right.
Because it is like really just you are truly being like we've said this before, like educational and doing research and like
Yeah,
really trying to broaden your mind rather than, you know, just like duh in front of the TV after work,
yeah,
which is what most people, like it's very different from watching like basketball or The Bachelor, which is what normal people tend to watch.
hmm
But hey, at least you had it for a month and
Hey,
you're you got to see American movie.
yeah, exactly. So if you do have Criterion Channel, yeah, check out Road Games and American Movie.
Yeah, and keep it up. Stick it out, everyone, with your Criterion channel. Don't give up on it as fast as we have.
Yeah,
If I eventually, have it's not that's see, this is just me being selfish. I'm saying if I had more money, I would like get it, but it's not even that much money. I'm just
yeah,
being like
yeah.
I'm just kind of being a cheap bastard. That's just like one Chipotle bowl, like for Criterion. That's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Yeah, yeah. But then at the end of the day, it's like, this $10, $11, whatever.
At the end of the day, I
than I'm
just kind of
spending.
want that extra Chipotle bowl every
Yeah,
month,
yeah, yeah. Maybe I want that rather than feeling guilt and needing to. Okay, fine, I'll watch this
I don't
obscure art house movie from the 1940s, whatever.
I don't understand anything I'm watching. This site makes me feel dumb.
I could have had Chipotle and got guac on the side.
What am I doing?
Waste of money.
This thing is taking over my life.
Yeah, the Criterion guilt just takes over,
Yeah.
consumes you. Yeah,
Yeah, we know about that.
been there. Yeah.
My movie bender. This is probably gonna be this is my last one. My movie bender will be cut a little short. Not that I haven't been watching movies, but I've been watching a lot of like doing a lot of rehashes lately, a lot of rewatches, a lot of just kind of comfortable things I've seen too many times.
Hmm.
Just to, give myself, give that to me myself. You let myself
Treat
do that.
yourself. Yeah.
Be like, it's okay, yeah, to watch movies you've seen
Yeah.
before, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I watched like The Social Network, which obviously I've seen a lot of times
Yeah.
already, watch that again, blah blah blah. And again, I watched The Beatles Get Back. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that again today, which I think I've already talked about maybe twice because I've watched it 2 other times. I maybe have talked about it before. So I'm not gonna go into maybe everything, but like one thing I did want to bring up is which I think we should make a plan and a goal for ourselves. This related to the show is we should maybe when we have subscription when we're offering subscription content, we can release an episode on just us ranking our Beatles albums. We just rank
Oh, wow.
all the Beatles albums.
I'm so down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Forget
you would be.
Eraserhead. We can just do that, right?
It just becomes that. What if we just rank them all now and then we'll talk about Eraserhead after?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And at 3 a.m.
And
we'll
I'm
talk
like, all
about
right,
Eraserhead.
yeah, so that's Abbey Road and
Yeah.
Eraserhead now. But yeah, doesn't that get you pumped to think about doing something like that?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about like Beatles stuff for like, I don't know, a 10-hour
Right.
episode.
We could talk about it probably instead of just doing all the topics we usually do on
just
the
about
show.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, definitely was thinking that'd be a good idea because I almost want to like after I continue to listen more and more and learn more after watching the documentary again for the third time. I'm bouncing some knowledge off of other, I'm taking all my Beatles stuff in and bouncing all the platforms around and learning and studying my best. I want to see how I can do in ranking the album. But anyways, in the Beatles Get Back, round 3, here we go. I'd say this round was probably the most I ever just sat and watched it, because the other times I watched it, I had just like moved out to California and I happened to be doing a lot of like getting settled things like while the documentary was playing, and I would just be like, all right, I'm folding all my like stuff, blah blah blah. And then like I would turn and like they'd be, like rehearsing, like 2 of us for the first time, and I'd just like stand over and gaze at it for like 5 or 10 straight minutes, and I'm like, all right, back to now they're having tea again. I'm gonna go and fold, again.
Bringing the toast out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because oh boy, isn't those like the plates of tea and toast are
Oh,
so
man.
lovely, and the
Yeah.
pastries and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I want to have tea time in London one day, but man, I'll tell you after
That
this.
looks so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Kevin, the roadie, he's just walking in with that tea. Yeah.
Giant plate of tea. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Jackson knew what he was doing when they left that in. Like they of course could take all these like little food shots out of it, but kept it in because he knew that's what people wanted. Yeah.
Right. I guess like the main stuff that like this time I basically just sat and watched the full thing, and you definitely do have a lot of, it's a long thing, so you have a lot of lulls, you have a lot of slow moments, and sometimes you are like, wow, I really am spending all my time watching this thing,
Yeah.
and but nevertheless, I think I got more out of it than the others because I wasn't so distracted, and I was able to really piece together fully, like, if you could say there is one, like an actual like story beats that are in this documentary, and kind of somewhat of an arc for like this recording process and the band as a whole, and just eventually, going on the roof and deciding to finish the album after like a lot of drama in the middle of it. And I think just being able to see it, like, because I think the first couple viewings I was kind of like, wow, I just can't believe they made such a great album, blah blah blah. And then like and then like this time around it was kind of more so like, wow, I can't believe like, they recorded an album and finished it, one that is so good despite like all this, like, yeah, I really felt more chaos than I had ever had
Mm,
before. I felt more of the, like, there not being something right in the middle of a lot of magic happening. And I think, of course, a lot of the drama with the Beatles, tell me if you agree or not, I think it gets a little blown out of proportion. A lot mediatized, a lot of speculation, a lot of stuff like that. Not as to say there isn't drama at the end, but I just think that maybe it's not as like, there's obvious drama, but maybe it's not as intense as everyone makes it out to be, and isn't as like maybe tragic, so tragic of a thing in the end. Like, God, like Yoko or like Paul, or whatever, this George leaving, this John, whatever, whoever you people blame at
yeah.
whatever time, they're like, they broke up the Beatles, they
Yeah.
broke up, they're the reason like why this was the last one. And when I'm kind of like, I'm kind of don't, and I'm also a late Beatle head, so I'm biased, but I'm kind of fine with this being the last one in the grand narrative of the Beatles. And I guess, seeing like the, like, I don't know, kind of a little of the roller coaster ride that is this, the like recording this album, was like, this round was actually, it was just very interesting, and I felt like I gained a lot more perspective of it, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I rewatched it for the third time around the holidays too. It's become a
Yeah,
holiday watch for us. But yeah, no, I agree with you too. I think that's why it was great to see in like specifically in the, I think it's the second part where they're
right,
kind of
yeah,
playing music and then reading
yeah,
off the headlines like George
oh yeah, yeah,
Harrison
yeah, yeah,
threw
yeah,
punches at Paul
right,
McCartney
right,
or something,
right,
they're just like making fun of all the
exactly,
headlines and
yeah,
tabloids. But yeah, I also think it was probably the right time for them to end. And it's just these four guys. I mean, three of them, all trying to write songs to get their songs into something. There's going to be like a power struggle,
yeah,
and maybe it could
yeah,
have worked if they were a band nowadays, they would have kind of split off to do their own solo records for a little bit, then come back to do a Beatles thing, and then
right,
split off again. Like kind of like Radiohead does. Like
yeah,
they go away for like eight
yeah, and
years to
there's
do
not as
their own
much
thing.
drama about it. It's kind of like more like laid back about it.
Yeah, yeah. But I think there was just so much pressure on them, and but you could really see that they really care about the Beatles at the end of the day. Like they all do
Right,
show up and
yeah,
want to get this
yeah.
done, but they all
Because
just
like
have
there's that
different
weird lull in
opinions.
the middle where like George is not showing up, and
Hmm.
they're just like recording, they're like just playing around,
Yeah,
and they're like sitting around talking, and you're just like, oh man, like, there's like the title cards, it's like, they will go back to George's later that day, and you're just like,
yeah,
oh man, they gotta get George back.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know this is falling apart.
yeah, yeah. That's that first part ends on such like a somber note, and then yeah, it starts with them just sort of talking about, Paul goes, and then there were two. and it's very very sad.
Yeah,
So
yeah, there's a lot of moments where just him and Ringo in there, you know.
yeah, but when you look at more like the backstory too, like like Ringo had quit at some point during like the recording of the White Album. He
Oh,
had quit at some point, and I think John said he was quitting. It's like there was always like moments where people thought they would quit. So I think at least towards the end of the last like 2 or 3 years, and I think maybe they thought that this was just like George needed a moment to like step
yeah,
away, but he'll be back.
yeah.
And I think in that Peter Jackson interview on WTF with Mark Maron, I think he alluded to something about George having problems at home too with his wife, and
Uh,
so maybe that just added to his stress and
right, right.
yeah, but
Yeah, and
yeah, yeah,
I feel like you see a lot of moments sometimes, like maybe I'm reading into this where you're recording, they're recording and like George just kind of looks like bored in the middle of the recording a little bit,
yeah.
too. And I think it's a lot of he's playing a lot of Paul's songs as
Hmm.
well. Like there's this one moment it's towards in the first episode, and he's like, I don't think you need another guitar on this one. I think he's talking about I think he's talking about Get Back, or I've got a feeling one of them. Probably I think it's Get Back, because there's already a lot of guitars just like bumping, or maybe it's Two of Us. God, I'm not.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
can't
two.
remember.
I think it's
Yeah,
Two of Us because there's 3 acoustics in Two of Us and no bass. So I think that's why. So he's like George just feels like he's adding, like he's like not even contributing as much mainly,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that Paul's like not giving him enough to do in this. So there's like stuff like that.
There's always a lot like it's so interesting to just look at their character dynamics too, because I feel like
Right, right.
yeah, I think we talked about this too. Just like in every sort of group or situation that you're in life, you can probably picture yourself as as one of the Beatles.
Yeah, you're like, oh
Uh,
man, I'm the Paul of this podcast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You are. It's always about
Because
your
when because
songs, Paul.
when I talk, I've got a feeling.
Paul's got to talk about the movies that he watched again
Yeah,
for 10.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah. George is like that typical like youngest child, like kind of always being told what to do and being patronized a little bit, and
yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, yeah, and it's
definitely see
clearly
that.
in the like hierarchy of the band, he is getting the least amount of songs done. But every
Yeah,
time he's like playing a song, I'm like, all right, this is like incredibly special. So that's why everyone's
yeah,
like mad. There's all the people who are like mad at like Paul or like others who were like not giving George the chance, just because like whenever he did have songs, they were very special. But maybe you could also say maybe that's why George's songs are so special, is because you only got so few of them. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's not like I listen to any of John and Paul's songs that they are writing and think, God, we didn't need this one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's no room for this. Like, you know what I mean? Why not give George a chance? And I'm always like, no, this is great. This is fine. Let's keep doing, what, like
yeah.
it's not like Paul and John are doing doing their thing. So,
Yeah, it's like
but
the
there that
best and worst thing to happen to George was that he was
right.
in a band with John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
it's
like when you have like a big triumvirate like that, someone is gonna be, have to get the leftovers, I guess
yeah.
you could say. And yeah, I don't know if you know this. Maybe this is kind of a question. Like in Abbey Road, does seem to me like that might be the most George songs that he got. I don't know that stat necessarily, but I listen to Abbey
Hmm.
Road, and like I hear Here Comes the Sun, I hear like Something in the Way You Move. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like there's, and then I think there's While My Guitar Gently Weeps in the middle there, or is that on a different?
I think While My Guitar Gently Weeps is on the White Album.
Well, there's like another guitar, like George like guitar, um
Let's see. Something. Here Comes the Sun.
and which one is it?
I think those might be the only two George ones on Abbey Road.
Oh, well, never. What about I Want You? I Want You. Is that George?
I Want You.
I want you so bad, you know.
I think that's John.
Is it? Damn it. See, that's the thing. I always mix up sometimes John and
Yeah.
George's singing voice.
I feel like John and George are more similar than even John and Paul. Uh, yeah, it's a John one. Yeah, I guess we can. I don't know. I feel like 2 to 3 is usually what George would get on an album,
That's
at
what I'm
least
saying.
the later
Yeah.
ones.
Let It Be, he got
Yeah,
one. There's some bonus songs, but Let It Be, he gets like one full song on, and
and they're not even
that's it.
Let It Be doesn't have great George songs. At least I think more forgettable ones than like Abbott
Then his
Road
others.
or
Yeah.
the White Album. Yeah, but yeah, that's definitely good for our Beatles album episode.
Yeah,
We'll
we
get
gotta
to
have all
yeah.
these things in place. But I guess I don't know to going forward and to wrap it up more. It's just like I don't know. It's still just very triumphant. The documentary ends in a very triumphant way. I feel to where when they they kind of they perform on the roof and they have completed this album, and it's just kind of so
Yeah,
awesome, and they're recording it and then they finish recording it, and it all turns out great in the midst of like they kind of changed their recording location like 3 different times. Then George is leaving. They're wondering how they're going to perform it. They're wondering about like a documentary. It's all like all very up in the air, like
hmm,
stuff in terms of like the showbiz business side actually of the album that kind of is all sort of in flux. But like I know in the end what's so great about this is that they do have like a ball recording this album, and they make one that is like incredibly re-listenable, especially since I've seen the documentary.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, there's just and I love watching them slowly get the songs finally, you know what I mean, before
yeah.
like they're the process of them just messing around to finally like performing them fully and like perfectly is like actually very fulfilling for the
Yeah.
9 hour for the 9 hour runtime of this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know there's not, it's obviously not all of the footage in there, but just hearing like one day what a song sounds like and then
Right.
how it gets to like 2 weeks later, it's like, wow, this has
Yeah, exactly.
changed so much.
Like there's
Yeah.
a moment in the beginning where there Paul's showing John I've Got a Feeling. John's trying to sing the like he's trying to sing the higher octave part that Paul sings, and he's like, with someone who will look like you, that like that whole section there, and John's trying to sing it and he's like, I can't go that high, and he's trying to do it, and he's like no 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 no, like trying to sing like the way Paul's singing it.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty hilarious, because Paul goes like so hard during that like song.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
song just goes so hard.
Yeah.
Like
It slaps. Yeah.
yeah, it slaps really hard. Every time it begins, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
This banger is back. I am listening to this
Yeah.
for the 10,000th time now.
I honestly, that song out of all of them is probably what I listened to most after watching the documentary. And I honestly didn't really know that song that well until Get Back.
No. Yeah, it's funny how like now it's such a part of my
Yeah.
psyche when I didn't know it. But if
Yeah.
I had met my like myself from 2 years ago, I'd be like, "Bro, you haven't heard I've Got a Feeling?"
Yeah.
Paul
You
McCartney,
serious?
man. Yeah, it's just like it's just such perfection, like the progression of it and the rhythm of it, and how George goes now 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 now
Yeah.
now now.
I love that shot
Yeah.
on the roof where George has got his big fur coat and he's just
Right, yeah. No,
yeah,
no,
it's
no. Yeah. Yeah, and Paul just destroys the vocals. He's
yeah.
just incredible. He's incredible in it.
Paul does know how to just like I don't know if it's pandering to the audience, but he knows how to make like a crowd pleaser.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's that one moment in I've Got a Feeling too where it's about to go back into the chorus and he just goes and it's like so satisfying. Like every time I hear it, I do that at the same time, just Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah, it's funny how during certain like recordings of the different tracks, you learn like the way like I don't know, they just the subtleties to the way they're performing it, and like on like say this version of Don't Let Me Down, I know how John's like how John goes like, "Ooh, she does," and how he hangs on it more, and he's like, "Yes, she does." And like,
And then in the
yeah.
first take when he forgets the lyrics too in the second verse.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I forget which
That's
one
yeah.
that is, man.
Yeah, it's on Don't Let Me Down. I think it's take one
Right, right.
on the
So he's like,
new
"I
like
got me."
record that
Is it when
came
he's
out.
like, "He got me coochie
Yeah,
coo"?
he's like goo
Yeah.
goo 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 goo, and then the next take they do it. They have Kevin like the roadie or whatever holding
Oh, right, right,
the
right, right,
lyrics up to him. Well, it's probably like freezing outside, and he just has to kneel there and
right,
hold
right,
the.
right. Yeah. And boy, don't they have all awesome fits when they're on the
Oh,
rooftop. Like
yeah.
Paul has like this sick suit with these shoes, and John, of course, looks, you know, the way John would look. And then George has got that awesome coat.
Yeah.
It's just
And Ringo's
fantastic.
in like that bright red
Yeah, but
like
it's
raincoat
like fitting
almost.
for Ringo though, I feel
Yeah.
like. Yeah, it's
Here,
kind
actually, I
of
have a visual aid actually. Here
yeah.
from the
Um,
IMAX concert, everyone got these little posters. So
oh,
yeah,
that's sick. Yeah.
look at those fits. Yeah.
Yeah, and then oh yeah, John has a fur coat too. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, good stuff.
yeah, and I think also that like even though Paul is like known as like he was like the driver of the group a lot of the times, especially towards the end there, and they're all getting frustrated with it. I did notice during the recording process, I'm like, okay, Paul definitely is the one though. He's like coming up with the numbers like the quickest, you know what I mean? And maybe, you could say what you want on like who's the best songwriter of the group, but I felt like Paul was definitely getting like the bouncier, like bluesy ones done like very fast, and he would have them
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah, he really seemed the most motivated
Yeah.
to really get something done. Whereas it seemed like it seemed like George maybe had some, but he was not I don't know, given the
Saving it
platform as
maybe.
much. Yeah, or maybe
Yeah.
saving it for
Yeah.
himself. Yeah, and then John would just sort of I don't know, it seemed like he was pretty aloof, but would just come up with some. He's like, yeah, I just started doing this, and then they
This
play
is
his
this is Don't Let Me Down.
yeah. Maybe we should do Don't Let Me Down.
But I think there's moments too where George performs things from his first solo album
Yeah,
in the Get Back documentary, and like he's singing it and stuff, and they're not like, oh yeah, let's add this, they don't do that
yeah,
necessarily, so they save it for him.
yeah, yeah. I do feel bad for George in the moments where it's like his song, and it almost seems like they don't take it that seriously, or that they're not as into it. Specifically, there's like a moment where George is like just trying to figure out what to say in like the next verse or something. It's a very like subtle moment, and he's like,
Mm.
what do I say there? I don't know. And John's like, well, just keep saying things, George. Something will come to you. Like just like keep saying something, and it'll happen. It's like, well, fuck, I'm not like John Lennon or Paul McCartney. You could see like that insecurity in him,
Oh,
you
oh,
know.
okay. Yeah.
But that also led to that great conversation that they recorded in the cafeteria with between Paul and John, where they're
Right.
specifically talking
That's
about
yeah, and they
George.
just show like images. It's all like voiceover.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. That's a cool moment to show that how like mature they were for being like,
For
I don't
sure.
know, late 20s and really
Yeah.
figuring this out. And
Yeah, I mean, they were all pretty aware of everything that was going on, you know what I mean? And they
yeah.
actually they have like a lot of humility to them for the being those guys, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which is not a thing in music as much today, like humility. And like I find that insanely like interesting and refreshing. Um, yeah, because to me they're like the greatest. So I'm just like the fact that
Yeah.
they act so like we try to talk like we're normal people, but we're not normal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's a whole part of watching this
I
too. Is like,
I eat breakfast like you do.
I have my tea and toast the same way as you.
I'm like, sure you do, man. Sure.
Yeah. Nobody brings it into me though. I have to get it myself.
Right, right. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, this makes me also want to like rewatch that the Harrison documentary, because like you all there's always that end of watching Get Back, you always have a little guilt and sympathy for George, so you want to like
Yeah.
tribute to him by watching Living in a Material World.
I know we could go on even longer on Beatles talk.
But
Even
also,
just on Get Back.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's my thing, my little
Nice.
thing on the Beatles Get Back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, before our next break when we talk about Eraserhead, I'll just throw these two out there quick. That one of my goals in 2023 is to watch more of these like movies you have to see that I've been putting
Ah,
off because of
okay.
too long or maybe too much of a bummer. Yeah, too. That's what they seem like. But I'm making it a point that no matter how long they are, I'm going to try and get to them this year. And two of those that I watched are A Woman Under the Influence
Mm.
and Ikiru. Yeah, both
The
ones.
animated film Akira.
No, the Kurosawa
Oh,
one about the guy who has stomach cancer and he's
yes, yes, yes. I,
yeah,
I mix those up a lot. Yeah, I've seen both films.
yeah. These are two that I've slept on just because the runtime and they're also really
Depressing.
serious subject matters. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like A Woman Under the Influence about like a depressed mother for 3 hours and it's like, oh, do I want to spend 3 hours reliving my
With this
childhood?
depressed mother with my
Yeah.
child.
Yeah, so it took me a while to get to that, but of course I understand now why it's so highly regarded, and the
Mhm.
acting performances are just amazing in it. But
Yeah, it really opened up my world when I first saw A Woman Under the Influence. I had
yeah,
never seen anything like it at the time, and it was crazy.
yeah, yeah, and likewise with Ikiru, I thought it's a really beautiful movie. This is my first like non-samurai Kurosawa
Right.
movie, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
There's only a few of them, I think.
yeah, yeah, and it was really good, and it reminded me of Joe versus the volcano a little bit too.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah, I guess so.
This
Yeah.
guy dying and choosing to live out his life, and then and yeah, a really beautiful, uplifting movie in the end, even though it's about a sad subject. But yeah, both classics that you got to see. So I'm glad I got to them, and yeah, there'll definitely be more of those throughout the year that I'll get to. So yeah, I'm starting off
Nice.
strong.
All right, and one more thing about the Beatles. I love this so much. I love this part. Paul's like, a feeling I can't hide no more, or oh yeah, and then Paul and then John goes like, oh yeah, just, just that like, oh yeah, like it gets me every time. I just get such a kick out of him just going, oh yeah, like it's like as if like it's not really like he only has that part at the end, right? That's mainly like he mainly like
Yeah.
just does backup vocals, but just like where he just comes in and does the oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah. And then Paul's like, "Oh yeah!" Like he's
Yeah,
screaming,
yeah, and
going
he's
crazy.
yeah, right, right. Especially since it's so much more toned down than what he's
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
over there too.
yeah. That's that John part of the song is so like
Yeah,
laid back compared to it
right,
too.
right.
Yeah,
But it's a good outro. I love it. It's you
yeah.
know, it's that's
Everybody had a wet
perfect.
dream. Yeah,
Yeah, it's perfection as well.
yeah,
But yeah, John, I think one eventually we should probably just like rehearse for maybe like 10 years or something like that. And then one day we'll go on the roof
there we
and
go. Yeah,
we'll exactly do that.
yeah.
and it'll be just an exact replica of it.
It'll be just as good. I'll get my fur coat.
And it'll be
Yeah. Well.
yeah, we'll dress exactly like it. It'll be the best we got, and we'll do it in LA or Denver or something like that, and it'll become a whole news story.
Yeah, get the cops to come up there.
All right, but anyways, today's film of the day is Eraserhead. We've been meaning to get into David Lynch. Not that we haven't gotten to David Lynch, but I guess go through each film individually. So I thought, why not start at the beginning? Also, it just felt like this one was in need of a revisit, maybe more than his others, and maybe or just a rewatch for me personally. I've only seen the film once. I don't know about you. Was this your second watch or?
Yeah. Yeah, this was just my
Yeah,
second watch. And honestly, if we didn't out of all of his films, this is probably the one that I would go back to rewatch the least. Meaning
yeah,
just meaning that it's I don't know, yeah, it's like it's a short early Lynch movie that
yeah. It's a film student movie. Also,
mm,
yeah, he made this. He's known to have made this when he was at AFI. Yeah, and I think this is also like this movie is like very much revered by some, and then but also not as ever like it's not as unanimous. Say as other Lynch movies like Mulholland Drive, which is or Blue Velvet, which I think are both unanimous. Like everyone, if they not only became popular, but everyone just loves them and
yeah.
could watch them any day and think they're masterpieces and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. It kind of gets pushed to the wayside a little bit because it's like I don't know, when you watch Eraserhead, like it's clearly you can see his other movies and work down the line in Eraserhead. There's a lot that reminds me of Twin Peaks or Blue
Yeah,
Velvet
right,
too.
right,
But yeah, because it seems like a more like condensed version of Lynch. It's not one that I would
right,
necessarily go back to before any of the other ones we just talked about.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's definitely like him. He hasn't evolved yet into like say like 90s Lynch or something, anything like that. And he's definitely doing he's very much doing him
yeah,
in Eraserhead. This is definitely very Lynch, even though it's not like quite the Lynch yet that he hasn't fully formed, if you can call it that. Like Lynchin hasn't maybe fully formed yet, but this is him definitely doing what he wants to do exactly. Specifically with like just the weird vibes, the tone, the play on set design, the music that like the kind of like I guess the like score that is maybe a prelude to what Angelo Badalamenti would eventually do. I hope I said his name right. To all Lynch fans out there. I don't think this is like necessarily perfect for me, but I definitely like Eraserhead a lot. And I think that there is stuff to talk about. But I also think some of the beauty of Lynch too is also not trying to figure out maybe what everything
yeah,
means necessarily as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, I think this is one of his more straightforward
Hmm.
movies too, which
Right. Right. It
is
is.
funny to think. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it is it's a lot like just a story about a new parent
Right.
and struggling to cope with the life changes
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to deal with
Exactly. Yeah. It's
now.
it's like Ron Howard's Parenthood, but David Lynch. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really, I feel like a relatable story if you kind of see it for what it is at its core.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I think there's like a lot of the surreal, a lot of the unexplained of the elements that you're like about the mood and the vibe and like some of the unexplainable things that Lynch does. That he like you'll see him in interviews a lot. He'll someone will ask him to explain this movie or whatever, and he'll just say no. And I think there's something to that, where it's like left, where a lot of things are left, you know what I mean, where you're not always trying to figure it out too much, and it's more about the feeling that
Yeah.
these images going along with a lot of these weird noises give you. And yeah, I mean, unlike, say, something like my favorite movie of 2022, Top Gun Maverick, this movie is very much an art movie. This is an artist at work, and you can tell from frame one that it is. And yeah, I mean, it's a good change of pace. I love all the industrial setting in Eraserhead always.
Hmm.
And I think it goes very well with the black and white. And I've watched some like videos with like some Lynch videos when I was going down my like Lynch rabbit hole back in the day. And there's a lot of like videos with like Lynch and his like writing partner, and he's like young. He's really young, and he's in LA, and he's, you know, going to AFI or whatever, and he's like driving around these weird industrial areas because there's a lot of that shit around here.
Hmm.
And he's just like, look at this, this is beautiful, oh man. And he's like, you and I could just, he's like talking to his writing partners, like, you and I could just get a couple of, get some donuts and just hang out here
Oh
all
my
day.
God.
And it's just such a Lynch, it's such a Lynch like moment, you know what I mean? But it's also
Yeah.
like, you gotta love it too at the same time. You're just like,
Yeah.
like, and a lot of his early photography along with Eraserhead was always like, I think, very like industrial and like about like decay, and almost like trying to create this vibe of like post-apocalypse and shit like that. And so that's just always what I connect with when I think of Eraserhead, is just how Lynch was definitely, especially in his early days, very interested in that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's clear in this that like all the production design and the
Yeah.
sets, everything is so like detailed and specific.
Right.
Like
Hmm.
everything is intentional in a way, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
every little detail. And yeah, it just, he pays attention to those
Right.
things like that.
Like even at the end when he's operating on his alien, you know, his like lizard child, like the way like the blood is like moving around and all the intestines are like, there's like, and like there's just, that is such a calculated like, um I don't know, like the, you know, the special effects like are very calculated in that
Yeah.
moment, and whoever designed all that.
I guess Eraserhead starts out very obscure at first. You don't really understand what
Right.
this guy is doing
Yeah,
walking
he's kind of
around. He's like
wandering around this. Yeah, yeah, it does.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of a student film in the way it opens, especially like after there is like an opening image, I think, where it's like his head, and then it's
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
his like
right.
eraser head, which is, and it kind of starts off very sci-fi,
Yeah.
like, and trippy, in that way, and then it slowly goes down, and it's almost like out of like an Alien by Ridley Scott, like the way it's like going through this planet or stuff like that. And then yeah, then it just, you're expecting like almost like this weird sci-fi movie to begin, but then it's just this dude roaming around these industrial areas, like
Yeah.
looking really sad and stuff. Gotta love the look of this guy too. It's almost like he was like designed to look like Lynch in film school or something like that too.
There are a lot of moments where I thought to myself that he looks a lot like
Like
David
David
Lynch.
Lynch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
almost had to second guess myself that it's not actually him.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially like you know, the title image where, you know, he gets surprised later when shit starts to go down. That is such a great image. especially because of not only because of the lighting, but because of the way his hair just fills up the top of the frame, and he's just has that face, and it's just like it's just perfect for the cover of the movie, and just
Yeah, and I honestly had no idea what to the first time seeing this. I
yeah.
remember
Oh,
not
so
expecting any of
so
this, you
weirded
know.
out by the whole thing, I think.
Yeah,
Way more than this time round,
yeah.
for sure.
And I genuinely didn't know anything about the story
Right.
or any, so I thought it was some crazy creepy horror movie. And uh I don't, yeah, I know on like, I think I saw on like Letterboxd that they have it listed as like horror or like fantasy horror or something like that, which seems goofy. Like it makes some sense, but it's also it's just kind of like an absurd drama and comedy. Kind of there are funny moments too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, this guy finds out that he accidentally knocked up his girlfriend, and then has to
Yeah.
get married and settle down and take
Yeah.
care of this
Yeah.
mutant
Yeah.
alien baby
Right.
that and there's constantly this noise going on that's just so grating and annoying.
Right. Yeah, they're clearly living around all these like factories too,
Mhm.
and it's the interactions with the like the in-laws if you want to
Yeah.
call them in particular are like so strange and awkward at the beginning, and it's so weird the way their apartment is and the way their like kitchen is set up, and how he's just taking the like they have so little space, and he's just taking this like chicken or whatever out of this like
Mhm.
tiny miniature oven and bringing it around, and the way the dad just kind of like smiles at him and stares at him. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the vibe of some of the like weirdness that of the weirdness in like interaction that he likes to play around with, especially in like the Twin Peaks genre a lot. Especially from the original show in the 90s, that is shows just filled with like strange, awkward, weird interactions a lot of the times.
Yeah, that's all what the interactions with the in-laws are. And maybe that's him showing how unusual he feels when he's with his in-laws, you know. That's kind of what I was thinking, like just having in-laws myself, as being like a new person in an already
Is
established
that how
family, you already
is that
feel
how it
weird.
usually goes, John?
Yeah,
You're
that's how it
for
goes. We're
you.
cooking like these weird
Spot
chicken
on.
things, and
Yeah.
I'm yeah, people are making weird noises at the dinner
Did
table,
you
and
and your wife have sexual intercourse?
yeah, that's why we had to get married, because we had this like mutant baby. Yeah, it's so relatable.
Yeah, living in the factories. But yeah, I so like definitely going forward, especially from this, I was kind of getting a little worried. I was telling you before when we were not on the air. I was like, when there were moments during when I was watching this movie, I was like, oh man, I picked this movie to talk about on the podcast because I don't know, a lot of Eraserhead is just weird and is unexplainable. I don't think it's meant to be explained fully in depth, and
Yeah,
I don't know. I almost think it's I think while there is a lot of opinions you could have on what a lot of this might mean, I think it's almost tiresome to try, I guess.
yeah,
And it would be, even though there's, things we can talk about later as we move through the plot. But yeah, I mean, essentially they have this child, and it's a mutant. It's very kind of alien lizard like, very strange. And well, his girlfriend kind of just like goes insane, uh ditches out on it very quickly,
hmm
and leaves him with the baby, and he discovers it to be sick. And I guess you could say there's a psychological and surreal element to where this illness is affecting our protagonist, Henry Spencer, which is his name. Henry Spencer. Yeah, it starts to affect him, and he's having these visions about this girl with like very weird cheeks.
Yeah, Radiator Girl or whatever.
Yeah, Radiator
Yeah.
Girl. And she's singing this creepy song that is definitely like Twin Peaks-esque,
Yeah.
like something, that Kyle MacLachlan would just appear in like in front of this show after falling into something, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, so the movie, a lot of the last, I'd say, hour 45 minutes to an hour are very just surreal, a lot of it, and a lot of him doing what he does, which is scare you in ways that are more of an out of body experience, and a lot more about atmosphere and stuff like that. And yeah, kind of all around just this guy having this very strange baby.
Yeah. I mean, once we get past like the family stuff, there's not a whole lot of dialogue happening.
Yeah,
And
arguably the most amount of dialogue in the movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of I feel like there's, like we said, there's some things that are just like inexplicable and it's not even worth your time. Like, why does the girl in the Radiator look like that? Like, why are her cheeks like
Right.
that? Like,
Yeah.
why are these certain things certain way?
I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like the like main thing there's a lot of different I don't know, these like industrial things mimicking regular human life in a way.
Right.
Like the man in the planet. Is that what he is? The guy, he's pulling all these levers and it's like making things happen. It's like I don't know, and maybe that is to dissect that. It's like how Harry is that his name?
Henry, I believe.
Henry. He's just like living passively, not really.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he's not really in control of his life at all. So it's almost like these gears are just like shifting, just like making him do these things going through life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But besides that, it's like I think that's like the border, like the baseline, I don't know, metaphors or whatever that you can take from it. But then
Sure.
it's really absurd and surreal and inexplicable, and you just kind of take in what you're seeing and you can take it in how you want to, and try and translate it however you want to based on how it makes you feel and how you interpret it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also ends in a very sudden kind of Lynch way, where the girl with the cheeks kind of just comes up and like grabs him almost out of nowhere, like almost like she's grabbing him out of his like bad dream or whatever he's just stumbled into, whatever like stream of consciousness he's in. I don't know, but that's now I'm trying to explain what I don't understand. But Lynch has moments of just ending. He does end movies like this in this quick, but also very it's very final, and it's very it really ties it up nicely, but it also, you don't totally get it always. It makes you think. You are definitely, I will say, you are very much in for that on the return, on the way that ends, because man, is that one boy is it a doozy the way the return ends. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of just David Lynch in general. I don't know, just as we've been talking, it reminded me of last year I was in DC for a wedding, and we had some free time on one of the days, and we went to the Hirshhorn Museum, which is like a modern art museum, and there's just so much random shit that doesn't make any sense in there.
Right.
And it's like so bizarre, and I could just picture, I don't know, being in there with like a friend, or I mean, I was there with my family, and I think they were like open to it and everything, but just being there with someone who just doesn't want to, who really wants to understand everything and just doesn't want to experience it. They want to know what everything means. And that's just how I felt there, is how I feel about David Lynch too, is like you kind of just got to take it in and not try to figure everything out, that figure out whatever the deeper meaning is behind anything, and just sort of experience it. And yeah, there's like the moment where Henry's head pops off, and
and then
the baby
it's his
pops out of
babies.
his collar.
Steve couldn't tell you what that is.
Don't know what he's going for there, but it makes me like I don't know, it still like gets a hold of me and makes me just interested in what's going on because it's something
Yeah, I mean, I
interesting.
think it really is just what's like the baby and him are connected in this strange
Mm.
way, and like, and that's as far as I'll go with that opinion. Yeah, and as he's operating on the baby towards the end, he's essentially fixing his own brain, I guess you could say.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of I just saw once I just saw them all as connected, and I started to see a pattern in the film with that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I feel like there is some, like, for instance, on Letterboxd it says in heaven everything is fine. That's the first line under Eraserhead. So
Oh yeah, that's
I
the
just I
song that
wonder if,
she's singing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
almost like she's grabbing him down, like, to
yeah,
at the end to pick him up and take him away from all this, and like as he's trying to fix this mutant baby, he's trying to reach her. Like, it's, yeah. See, it's all very interesting, folks. it's,
yeah.
it's an interesting film for sure. Like, yeah, it's not, I like a lot of Lynch's more than this one, but I still like this one's his first one of his first, and it's very, very fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it really, having seen all a lot of his newer stuff, everything after this, you can really just see what led him to make the other things that he made, and yeah, just his style and his unique way of storytelling, and yeah, it just reminded me so much of everything else that he's done, and I think this is like a great starter for him to sort of explore that. And
Yeah, and super cool that you're watching The Return right now as well.
yeah,
While we're
yeah,
while we're covering Eraserhead.
yeah. So I just got really into the David Lynch mood lately, and I feel like he's one of those where you kind of have to be in that mood for, or if you don't,
Yeah.
then you'll get into it when you start watching something. But
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I miss the Lynch vibe.
well, this is an interesting one because it is pretty short, and I think it takes its time it
It
takes its
does,
time, as
yeah.
in it's like it's not trying to cram in a bunch of story
No,
beats
no,
into
because
it.
it's about like the mood and
Yeah,
yeah, holding on to shots, well, all that whatnot.
yeah. Where there's a lot of movies where I like check the time and it's like, oh my god, there's like an hour and a half left of this. And this, I
Yeah,
was like, oh my god, there's only 20 minutes left, and I feel like it was just
right.
getting started with the
Yeah.
story. Yeah,
You ever watch that documentary, like David Lynch, The Art Life?
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think there's a section where he talks about, like, how being at AFI, and like for him, he was like having the opportunity to, like, he's like having the opportunity to just work on this set and work on this film, and like I was given the money, like I raised the money from school to make this film. What a gift it was, like it was just kind of cool. It was kind of cool, like, you could tell that, like, being in film school and being like making this film in particular, which is what came out of film school, was a very formative time for him, and where he grew a lot, and
yeah,
into being one of the most respected, like, artists, like that there has been, like, the past, in recent years. Yeah.
yeah. For how just weird and abstract the guy is, he's a really likable person, and he seems
Yeah.
like a really positive guy too.
Right. Like
I
you were
always love
saying with,
interviews
what's
with
his
him.
name? You were saying with, not David O. Russell, the guy who made The Whale. Who's that
Oh,
again?
Darren Aronofsky. Yeah,
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 you were saying
same
with
way.
him, yeah,
Yeah.
in interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a really like really friendly, chill guy. Yeah, and that's kind of how David Lynch is like in his interviews. He seems
Right.
very optimistic, and there's a lot of YouTube clips of him just talking about life
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
motivation, and
I also think there's a part in the documentary where he's just sitting there and he's like talking about Eraserhead, and he's like working on all those sets for it. it was so beautiful. And then it holds on him, and he's just kind of sitting there like this, like smoking a cigarette, like in his like carpentry shop or whatever. And he's like,
Yeah.
it was so beautiful. And then just like holds on him. And then like one of his songs that like features like these cool Twin Peaks sounding guitar riffs that are in like a lot of Twin Peaks, like just plays over it. And that's like kind of how the documentary ends. It's really cool. So yeah, if anyone's interested in David Lynch, The Art Life, it's not the most engaging documentary. Certainly not like the Beatles Get Back on that level, but it's definitely like one that will get you in a very peaceful, creative mood, I would say.
Yeah, he's just a very interesting person to listen to. Yeah, I'd also say, I don't know if you ever watch these, but I also enjoy his weather reports. And
yeah, I was watching
picking a
those
number.
during quarantine. They were very very nice, especially when you were in all the time, because he had this like positive mentality on like, we're all stuck here, so might as well get some work done. Everyone have a great day.
He's like, and if you can believe it, it's Friday. Like,
here in LA, we have sunny, blue skies for days. Yeah, he's like living like up in like probably the Hollywood Hills or some shit, and he's just like, it's beautiful. blue skies for days.
Have a great day. And then he just picks his little number out of the fishbowl. 17. Right. Yeah, it's what a guy.
I'm sure we talked about his performance in the Fabelmans, and he's like,
yeah,
if the horizon is in the front, it's more interesting. Where is the horizon?
On the bottom? Yes. If the horizon's at the top or the bottom, it's interesting. If it's in the middle, it's boring as shit.
Oh, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Which that made me very self-conscious about anytime I have a camera now, and if the horizon is in the middle, and I'm going to be thinking about that.
Oh, well, let us know, John, if it works with your landscape photography.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
My horizons are all off in every frame.
They all got to be bottoms or tops. But hey, maybe that was John Ford. Maybe David Lynch doesn't.
David Lynch doesn't care
about that.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, that's a Eraserhead. I don't know if I have anything more to say about that.
No, I don't, and I think that's plenty. Yeah, definitely something I watched like 3 years ago and was like way more, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, actually. Jesus Christ. But definitely something I was way more confused on before. For sure. And I feel like definitely this time, like all those things, all that awesome smart stuff I said at the end about the movie, like, see, I got that, now.
This time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is why we revisit movies, folks.
Yeah.
It's not always so we can talk about movies we've seen too many times, such as like Grown Ups, where we can overdo it and dissect it. Sometimes it's nice to gain new perspective, because we like to learn on here as well.
Yeah, the learning podcast. That's what we are. That's our new tagline.
The learning podcast. I'm just gonna like talk about the
future.
The next episode. The future. Yeah. Future.
Let's look into the future.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of what we plan on doing next, we were talking about the bummies being happening around the Oscars. But in terms of what we're going to do before that, in between, we have an episode planned that's been in the works for a while. It will be titled Steve Jobs, of course, written by Aaron Sorkin, starring Michael Fassbender, versus the TV movie Jobs, which stars Ashton Kutcher, and is I think the most interesting thing about this is the incredibly vast difference of the quality of both of these movies that are both trying to tell the exact same story. and have like they both have scenes where Steve Jobs is like being a real dick to some programmer, but they are being done in such different ways because one is like written by Aaron Sorkin and the other is, the other is definitely not. So we've been trying to just compare those movies for a while and talk about them. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. My friend Felix Christensen will be our guest, and he is from the Bay Area, so he's got that connection to these,
Nice.
these Jobs movies, essentially.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Look out for that coming up.